today. Ladies and gentlemen, I'd like to now introduce the distinguished leader representing California's 53rd Congressional District, Congresswoman Susan Davis.
Thank you so much, Captain Beaver, and I really appreciate all of your being here. I'm so glad to be here, actually. It's a wonderful morning and it's a wonderful time to acknowledge and thank all of you for the efforts, and especially the folks that are sitting up here. I want to certainly thank Secretary Mabus and Mr. McGinn for allowing me to join you for the launching of the Great Green Fleet Initiative. It's a very exciting time for the Navy and the Marine Corps in spearheading what is certain to be a force multiplier in energy efficiency. And I have to say, Mr. Secretary, well, you just look for any excuse you can find to be here in San Diego. And we're very happy about that because we love it. And we know that it's going to be pretty cold and pretty snowy on the East Coast, so I hope you're staying. We'd be delighted if you can do that. You know, transforming how energy is used provides efficiency certainly in many areas. But we all know what's also important is it allows us to better train, to better equip, and better protect our sailors and our Marines. So whether it's on land, in the air, or aboard ship, we know our sailors and our Marines are answering the call to duty wherever. So optimizing energy efficiency enables our enemy and our Marine Corps team to be diversified in their use of energy resources while maintaining operational flexibility. The Department of the Navy has taken technology and energy modernization to the next level. Sometimes people don't realize the amount of effort that has gone into this, but it's very much there and it's very much something to celebrate. And they're creating a next generation capabilities of providing greater global presence as a deterrent to our enemies. I am so honored and privileged to be here. Thank you all once again for making this day possible. Congratulations on a job well done. Thank you.
Thank you, Congresswoman Davis. I'd like to now introduce the distinguished leader representing California's 57th Congressional District, Congressman Scott Peters.
Good morning, and for those of you visiting, welcome to Coronado and to San Diego. It's a pleasure to be here with you. The large ball of light in the sky is the sun. Some of you don't see it in the winter, but it's I think we enjoy it. I want to thank Secretary Mabus and Secretary Vilsack for being here in Coronado for the groundbreaking launch of the Green Fleet, Great Green Fleet. It was just a few months ago that I stood here with Secretary Mabus to announce the Navy and Marine Corps purchase of an unprecedented amount of solar energy from Sempra. And the Great Green Fleet is the next step in advancing energy security as national security. Because of the Secretary's leadership, we're launching the first of its kind naval force that will project power around the world while being fueled by American innovation. I often speak to folks about the military's advancements on renewable energy and ask, what is it about the military that they see that as important? Why is the Navy powering its ships with alternative energy and biofuels? Why are the Marines powering their bunkers with solar panels and their devices with personal solar panels? And the answer is not that the military are tree huggers. The answer is that our military leadership, particularly Secretary Mabus, recognize that reducing our reliance on foreign fuel is a national security imperative. When the price of oil spikes, it takes funds away from our troops and our other mission priorities. So diversifying our fuel sources improves our ability to effectively budget missions and for preparedness while keeping troops out of harm's way in the battlefield. So the Navy's investment in alternative fuel sources is important on the battlefield, and it's also driving investment in the research in the private sector. It's particularly appropriate that we have these ceremonies here in San Diego, where we have a world-class innovation economy, local labs and research institutions that contributed to some of the developments we're seeing here today. For instance, 3 months. it's a great way to join the innovation that's happening in San Diego with what we need in Washington and in the military. So in Congress, I've fought for the diversification of our energy supply and introduced legislation that increases our military's energy efficiency. The Department of Defense Energy Security Act will give our leaders like Secretary Mabus the tools to reduce our reliance on fossil fuels and speed up the development of alternative energy sources. And as we continue to hear numerous times today from military leaders and energy specialists, investments in alternative energy sources protect our military personnel, save money, and are essential for our national security. So I want to thank all of you for being here. I want to thank Secretaries Mabus and Vilsack for the invitation to join you. Let you know that you have a proud partner in me and in San Diego in moving these efforts forward. Congratulations to you all.
It's now my pleasure to introduce the former governor of Iowa and steadfast partner in the Great Green Fleet Initiative, our 30th Secretary of Agriculture, the Honorable Tom Vilsack.
Well, ladies and gentlemen, it is certainly a privilege and honor to be here this morning. Certainly it's an honor to be here in the presence of several members of Congress, obviously military leaders, but I deem it the greatest honor to be in the presence of all of those who are in our armed forces. I haven't always been as humble about this, as Secretary Mabus will probably remember. Soon after I got this job as Secretary of Agriculture, Secretary Mabus and I were at the White House together. I was pretty full of myself with this new job, and I leaned over to him and I said, you know, we got 100,000 people working at USDA. I mean, we got a huge operation. And he looked at me and he goes, yeah, I've got 990,000 Marines and sailors and a whole bunch of ships, tanks, and airplanes. So I've always been very respectful of Ray Mabus since that conversation. I am pleased to be here also because we are, as Ray knows, a military family and a Navy family. I'm proud of our Navy roots. My nephew, Sam Bell, served as a Marine out of San Diego, was stationed in Afghanistan for a period of time. He's now a student at the University of Northern Arizona. My father-in-law served in World War II as a naval aviator. My uncle, Charlie Young, was the commander of the second nuclear submarine in our Navy's history. And my great-uncle, Casson Young, was a Medal of Honor recipient for bravery at Pearl Harbor. So I feel very, very honored to be here today. And I feel particularly honored to be with my friend Ray Mabus, who had the vision and the foresight to see the importance of diversifying the energy sources and fuel sources for our Navy and our military. We're excited about the fact that the Navy is going to use 77.7 million gallons of a blended biofuel here in connection with the Great Green Fleet. We know each year the Navy uses over 28 million barrels of liquid fuel, so that's a tremendous opportunity for us in the biofuel area to partner with the Navy, to partner with the Defense Department and the Energy Department to expand and diversify our efforts. We've committed collectively over a long period of time, not in this particular circumstance, but over a long period of time, a substantial amount of money to expand the purchase of biofuel and renewable energy for the Navy. We want to create a drop-in aviation and marine fuel that will allow Ray to essentially reach the vision that he so forcefully articulated several years ago of 50% of the Navy's energy needs being met from renewable sources. Why is this important? Well, it's important for the reasons that the Congress representatives have indicated, but it's also important from a standpoint of the Midwest economy, the national rural economy. You see, 15% of America lives in rural America, but nearly 40% of your military comes from those small towns. And our challenge in rural America is to have an economy that supports families so that they can live, work, and raise their children in those small towns so that they can continue to provide the service to this great country. Kids who grow up in rural areas, they learn a very valuable lesson that is reflected in their military service. It's from farmers who understand that you can't keep taking from the land. You've got to give something back to it. The land is something that gives to you. There's a responsibility to give back to it. So it's renourished, it's replenished. Kids grow up with that value system and they understand this country has given us incredible freedom,
incredible liberties, capacity to live in the greatest and strongest nation in the world, to be able to dream big dreams. Because of that, they understand and appreciate the need to give something back. And so they join the military in great numbers, and they provide extraordinary service. We want to keep that value system alive and well in Roosevelt to help produce the feedstocks necessary to produce this food. We're excited about the Farm to Fleet initiative. We appreciate Secretary Mabus and his vision. We certainly are proud to be here today. I look forward to visiting some of the men and women who serve and to thank them for their service.
Thank you, Secretary Vilsack. I'd like to now introduce the Commander of Naval Air Forces, our Air Boss, Vice Admiral Mike Shoemaker.
Thanks, John, and good morning. Welcome again, everyone. It's an honor to be here today to introduce our Secretary of the Navy and to help acknowledge and celebrate his vision of the deployment of the Great Green Fleet. Let me again welcome Congresswoman Susan Davis, Congressman Scott Peters, Agricultural Secretary Tom Vilsack, fellow flags and general officers, distinguished visitors, and members of our local community. Thanks for joining us this morning. Today, more than ever, U.S. national interests require the speed, endurance, flexibility, and autonomous operations unique to our nuclear-powered aircraft carriers, carrier air wings, and carrier strike groups. They provide a credible deterrent presence for our combatant commanders around the world, as well as options to rapidly respond to a wide spectrum of threats and natural disasters. The composition and maneuverability of our carrier strike groups, combined with the fully integrated capabilities of the embarked air wing, allow us to operate and project power in contested waters and airspace, enabling the U.S. to continue its role as the key guarantor of peace and stability around the world. This morning, I watched proudly as two units of the Great Green Fleet Strike Group, carrier USS John C. Stennis and destroyer USS Stockdale, named for one of naval aviation's true heroes, get underway for deployment. Over the next few days, the aircraft from Air Wing 9 will quickly fill up the empty flight deck and operate from Stennis for the next 7 months in the Western Pacific, while also demonstrating the Navy's newest energy conservation initiatives. In naval aviation, we see the benefits of energy conservation daily in our carrier fleet, which is operated using only alternative fuel, nuclear energy, since the decommissioning of the last conventionally powered aircraft carrier USS Kitty Hawk in 2009. This alternative energy source is estimated to save the Navy 130,000 gallons of fuel per day. We're also working toward a future where our aircraft use 100% alternative fuel. Since Secretary Mabus put forth the Navy's energy goals in 2009, the Navy's fuel team has been actively conducting qualification testing on non-petroleum-based sources and certify them to produce JP5. One blend was successfully flown in over 100 sorties off USS Nimitz as part of the 2012 Moon of the Pacific exercise. And the fuels team will flight test the first 100% non-petroleum-based JP5 later this year. Diversifying our energy sources gives us operational flexibility and strengthens our ability to provide critical foreign presence, turning the tables on those who might try to use energy against us. And many of the energy conservation measures that will be utilized by Stennis and Air Wing 9 have already been incorporated into our daily flight operations at our shore bases here in the States. The culture is changing. Every day, sailors and Marines think about ways to better use energy more efficiently, which makes us better at our jobs and more effective in executing our missions. It's now my privilege to introduce the visionary leader who established the goal of sailing a Great Green Fleet back in 2009. And today has the opportunity to speak to you in advance of that fleet's departure. The Honorable Ray Mabus is the 75th United States Secretary of the Navy and the longest to serve as leader of the Navy Marine Corps since World War I. Throughout his tenure, Secretary Mabus has focused on 4 key priorities: people, platforms, power, and partnerships that enable the Navy Marine Corps' unique ability to maintain the global presence that reassures our allies and deters our adversaries. Leading the world's only global Navy, Secretary Mabus has traveled over 1.1 million miles and visited over 140 countries and territories in 48 states, to visit with sailors and Marines forward deployed or stationed around the world, to maintain and develop international relationships, and to reconnect the American public with the Navy Marine Corps, which he calls America's away team. Secretary Mabus also directed the Navy and Marine Corps to change the way they use, produce, and acquire energy, setting an aggressive goal of relying on alternative sources for at least 50% of energy by 2020. These goals have guided the Navy and Marine Corps to today's deployment of the Great Green Fleet, a concept first demonstrated in 2012. Secretary Mabus is a native of Akron, Mississippi, served as the governor of Mississippi from 1988 to 1992. He went on to serve as ambassador to the Kingdom of Saudi Arabia from 1994 to 1996. Secretary Mabus also proudly served in the Navy as an officer aboard the cruiser USS Naval. Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome the Secretary of the Navy, Secretary Mabus.
Thank y'all so much, and thank you for being here. Admiral Shoemaker, thank you for that wonderful introduction. Congresswoman Susan Davis, Scott Peters, my close friend, former governor, and collaborator in this effort for the last almost 7 years. There are so many people in the audience that have made this day possible that I'm not going to go down the list. There is one person here who's been introduced to Admiral Fleet Pennsylvania, who's now Assistant Secretary of the Navy for Energy Installations and Environment. His predecessor in that job, Jackie Fanningstein, sitting here too, was under her leadership that this began, and happened again, has carried it on to great success. So, this may be the most formal ceremony I've ever attended to celebrate everyday operations. That's exactly the point. We're just deploying the Great Green Fleet. Stockdale, as you can see behind me, Stennis that left minutes ago, those who are going with her, have been in any other areas from her. Later this morning, we're probably going to fly up to Rutherford to watch a runaway management using an alternative fuel blade. That will look horrific. This deploying strike group, these routine operations, exactly what the nation counts on Navy and Marine Corps to do. Secretary of State John Kerry said last week in his address to the National Defense University, the United States will remain more engaged in more places in the world than at any other time in history. The Navy and Marines uniquely provide presence around the world, around the clock, ensuring stability, deterring adversaries, giving our leaders options in times of crisis. As Admiral Shoemaker said, Navy Marine Corps America's away team. We don't get any home games. We're not just in the right place at the right time, we're in the right place at all the time. We get on station faster, we stay there longer, bring everything we need with us, and because we're operating in sovereign American territory, our ships, we don't have to ask anybody's permission to get the job done. Now back in cold, snowy Washington, the words Washington versus when Theodore Roosevelt sent the Great White Fleet around the world 110 years ago. He did it as a show of the Navy's strength and our ability to project that strength, to be present. He understood how important it was for the rest of the world to see the U.S. Navy paving the way forward for our country. And he did it without enough money to bring the fleet home. He was confident that Congress would appropriate the money once it got halfway around to bring it back. And they did. As President Obama discussed in the State of the Union last week, the American way is to blaze the trail. When another president, John Kennedy, announced in 1961 that we would go to the moon and back within a decade, a lot of the technology required hadn't even been invented. We have never been a nation to shy away from bold ambition. And with that thought in mind, in 2009, you've heard I set some pretty aggressive energy goals for the Department of the Navy. So I want to talk today a little bit more than just about the Great Green Fleet. I want to talk about the journey we've traveled these past 7 years, and more importantly, the direction we're headed. The Department of Defense is the world's largest user of fossil fuels. And the Navy is more than a third of that. So when I took this job almost 7 years ago, these issues made energy a priority because of how much it impacts our combat capability and because of the cost that it imposes on us. At the height of the fighting in Afghanistan, gives us force protection advantage, taking convoys off the road and reducing the time our ships are with orders at sea. Now I'll give you one specific example of this flexibility. In Singapore, the oil refinery there is owned by China. Right down the road is an alternative fuel refinery owned by a Finnish company. Don't we need the ability to get fuel from either one of those sources? And wouldn't it be terrible if we hadn't certified all our ships, all our aircraft on alternative fuels, so that we do have that flexibility if the cause arises? For those of you who heard me speak before, and as Admiral Shoemaker said, the 4 fundamental principles that I've tried to use to lead the Navy and Marine Corps, people, our sailors and Marines, like visionary leaders we have in America today. In 2011, President Obama directed the Department of Agriculture, Secretary Bill Sack, and the Department of the Navy partner with the private sector to develop a domestic advanced biofuel industry. As a result, 2 years ago, we set up the Farm Fleet Program. At the time, Secretary Bill Sack said it perfectly. America's Navy shouldn't have to depend on oil supplies from foreign nations to ensure our national defense. And rural America stands ready to provide clean, homegrown energy that increases our military's energy independence and puts Americans to work. Well, today this ship behind me is fueled with a blend that we bought from Altair, an American company close to here in Paramount, California. Fuel costs the Department of Defense $2.05 a gallon. I want to repeat that. This fuel costs the American taxpayer, costs the U.S. government $2.05 a gallon. Now, a lot was made in 2012 when we demonstrated the Great Green Fleet of the cost of the fuel. Well, yeah, we bought a very small amount. It was a demonstration. The world didn't stop in 2012. We paid $26 a gallon then. We're paying 13 times less today, just 3.5 years later. That's the story. That's the success. $2.05 a gallon. We only have 3 requirements for biofuels. One is that they be a drop-in fuel. We're not changing our engines. We're not doing anything. It has to be exactly the same. 2 is that it takes no land out of food production. And 3, that it be cost competitive. Well, today, even with the dramatic drop in oil prices, it's competitive. It's competitive today, and using the market, the Defense Logistics Agency bid out this fuel, and this is what came back. Cost competitive, $2.05 a gallon. And I want to thank the Defense Logistics Agency, DLA. They were the people that actually bought this fuel. 77.7 million gallons, the largest purchase of biofuels ever undertaken. the only ones going to be. Private sector too. United Airlines, Class Airlines, Cathay Pacific, Southwest Airlines, UPS, FedEx, all buy alternative fuels for their airplanes. And on the ground, FedEx, UPS, and even Disney buying alternative fuels to fuel their ground fleets. By having both the military and the commercial world do this, it expands the market and it lowers the cost. All these companies I just named are in business to make money. They're buying this because it's a better idea. They're buying this because it makes them better and efficient. We're working around the world. We have agreements now with China, with Italy, with Australia on alternative fuels. And that brings me to another key platform. Admiral Shoemaker said, every single ship in this strike group is operating on alternative fuels. The carrier, most of all, nuclear power, one of the original alternative fuels. We're rebuilding the fleet. On 9/11/2001, the U.S. Navy had 316 ships. 7 years later, the end of 2008, we were down to 278 ships. And in that 7 years, the Navy put 41 ships under the other. Not enough to keep our fleet from shrinking more, and not enough to keep our shipyards in business. I took office almost exactly 7 years ago. By the end of this fiscal year, with the ships we've already got under contract, with the ships we've got authorized from Congress, in these 7 years, we're going to put 84 ships under contract with a 20% smaller overall top line. We're going to get the fleet back where it needs to be, more than 300 ships by the end of this decade. We're not just doing what I call those package fuel bills. And maybe even more important, they stayed out 44 days longer than they would have without them. That's the reason we're building all our big deck amphibs, the package drives. It's the reason we're beginning to retrofit some of our destroyers with the same thing. And finally, people, let's say there's cultural shift in the Marine. Cultural shift in the Marine is what's driving all of this. The innovation is coming from the fleet, it's coming from the deck plate, it's coming from the field with the Marines. All you have to do is look out here. Marines hold 2 X-Fobs a year, traditional forward operating bases, where they invite industry in. What have you got in terms of alternative energy? It will help the Marines provide from them. And it's everything from small, portable, rollable solar blankets. It saves a company of Marines 700 pounds of batteries, so that they don't have to be resupplied, so that they don't have to be dependent on a convoy. These portable solar blankets, making energy where they are. We've got a thing called Task Force Innovation. And there's a website called the Hatch. You can enter things if you're in the fleet. This is how we can do things better. We had a chief that years ago said, put LED lights on your ships. Well, we're doing it now. Every time we pull a ship into a shipyard for availability, we're changing the light bulbs. Stockdale has LED lights. It saves that ship 20,000 gallons of fuel a year. Just changing the lights. And it gives you better light, and you don't have this off for years versus a few months. Sailors are doing things like using an energy dashboard to give them in real time exactly what they're doing and how they're running the ship and what that's doing in energy. As our CNO, Admiral John Richardson, said, everybody's pitching in here. We're making every kilowatt go farther, every gallon of fuel count, and it's making us a smarter Navy. The Marines, as Marines always are out front with things like this on their blankets, but also with kinetic systems for their backpacks and knee braces, so that you can take the Marines' energies that are hooking all that stuff and turn it into. Another goal was by 2020, as the President put it in his State of the Union in 2012, by 2020 the Navy would buy half its shore-based energy from alternative sources. We're a seagoing service, but we do have 3.5 million acres of land and 117,000 buildings, so we use a little energy on shore. We use 2 gigawatts a year. As my repeater said, months ago, we announced the biggest purchase any governmental agency made of alternative fuels, solar power fuel bases in Southern California. Let me tell you, onshore, we're there today. We've got either in the ground, in procurement, 1.1 gigawatts of alternative power for our basin. We did it 5 years early. 5 years early. Here in California, we put in the largest RFP for electric vehicles, diesel electric vehicles, in this country. More than 400 use on our basis. It's a product of another partnership with the state of California. It's us heading toward our goal of using oil use in a non-technical fleet by 50%. Now, when I talk about setting these goals, some people will put this one skeptical. But let me show you how far we've come. A recent report from the Office of the Undersecretary of Defense for Acquisitions, Technology, and Logistics said that the Navy's demand for oil from 2009 to 2014 went down 15%. We're using 15% less oil. Marines are using 60% less oil in the same time. The Navy has always been a leader when it comes to energy innovation. The sale to coal in the middle of the 19th century, coal to oil in the early 20th century, pioneering the use of nuclear in the middle of the 20th century. Every single time there were naysayers. You can't do this. They saw lines on that. They saw obstacles. Sailors looked out. They looked to the horizon. They saw no obstacles. They saw the open sea. They saw no lines. Sat ready to go. Couldn't be more proud of what the sailors have done. Free us, give us operational flexibility in terms of energy, reduce the amount and types of energy that we use. Navy and Marine Corps are going to continue in this as engineers, their eyes on the horizon, the greatest expeditionary fighting force the world has ever known. On the Navy, Circuit Ports